She's been active with the Social Service Center since 2019, and as the director, she oversees everything, all the programs, operations, and outcomes related to the center. If you're here during the week, you will see Teresa. She previously worked as associate director of the center of the Social Services Center, and prior to that was an intern with the tutoring summer day programs at Chicago Lights. So she has a long history with Chicago Lights. I'll introduce Mike as well, and then Teresa will speak first, and then Mike, and then we're going to have a Q&A. Mike Usiak has been with the Meals Ministry since 2018. Prior to joining us, he was the donor relations and database manager at the Annixter Center, and he served as the catering manager at Inspiration Kitchens, and he set up the food pantry at his church. The Meals Ministry is a direct congregational outreach program. It's not part of Chicago Lights. So that's why we have two speakers on two different aspects of Fourth Church's outreach. So we'll start with Teresa. Please welcome her.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for the invitation to come out and join you for dinner and to speak a little bit about the Social Service Center. I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be here. I've done a few talks that a few of you have attended before, and the general feedback I get is people are like, wow, I had no idea all of that stuff was happening day to day within this building. So one of my goals in this little 10-minute speech tonight is to help you understand all the good work that's happening, all the good work that you're supporting, and maybe even inspire you to come volunteer with us sometime. So my first thing I wanted to go through was kind of tell you a little bit about what a day in the life of the Social Service Center looks like. So we're open Tuesday through Friday. We open our doors at 9:30 a.m. We're pretty diligent about getting those open. Sometimes if it's really cold, we open them earlier. And what we're doing in the morning is operating a food pantry, a clothing closet, and then doing what we call case management services. So that might mean helping somebody make a phone call, helping somebody get a state ID, a birth certificate, a social security card, various short-term types of things like that is what we're doing in the morning hours. A lot of people are surprised to learn there's over 150 people that receive their mail here. So a lot of people come to pick up mail, and that's a whole production on our end. There's a lot of logistics that goes into making sure mail is sorted properly and delivered properly, and weird things where a participant might share a name with a staff member and then the mail gets a little intertwingled between departments. So it's kind of the bane of my existence, but it's really important for our participants to have a place to receive mail. So we continue to trek on with that. So a lot of people in the morning are picking up their mail. We also have a partnership with Denmark Barber School, which is right across from the Art Institute. And so they come out periodically to do haircut days here, and then we purchase a discounted haircut voucher where a participant can go over to the barber school once a month and get a haircut. So that's been a really fruitful partnership for us over the years that participants love. So a lot of times people are coming to get a haircut voucher in the morning. And then a newer partnership happening is with Heartland Health. So we have a medical clinic that comes out and sets up in Paige Smith Room every other Tuesday. Not Paige Smith, I'm forgetting the name, but a little farther down the hall. But they offer a medical clinic for participants. So I wasn't quite sure how that would go, but I've been delightfully surprised at how it's been utilized. A lot of the things are, you know, a participant might not be able to get a hold of their doctor and they need to refill a prescription so they can write a script or tap into like whatever the paperwork is needed for that. We've had people come get stitches taken out, come get over-the-counter meds that they don't have access to if they're unhoused. So there's been a lot of, and referrals. So they have a dental clinic they can get people connected to, which has been really great. So yeah, that's Heartland Health. They're here every other Tuesday. And that's kind of a picture of what's happening in the morning hours. At 11:30, we move over to the lunch program, which I'm going to let Mike talk about. And mostly what we're doing there is case management. So we're handing out mail for people. Sometimes people want help submitting a job application at lunch. So if it's a quicker thing, we can do that. Submitting a SNAP application for our Medicaid application are usually things we can help with during lunch. But it's meant to be kind of a drop-in service that someone can come sit down, say what they need help with, and then we can hopefully connect the dots. So a lot of the computers are set up with phones so we can help people make a phone call. Sometimes people are really just calling a family member too, which I think is kind of an underlooked at service that's offered. A lot of things too, like activating a debit card. So there's just, that one always kind of surprises me. Like if you're unhoused and you don't have access to a phone, you get a debit card with your income comes on it and you can't do anything with it. So we do a lot of activating debit cards as well during lunch. So that's from 11:30 to 1. At 1 o'clock, at 12 to 1, our outreach team goes out. Their goal is pretty much to invite anyone panhandling in the area to come in for services. So they're usually out 30 minutes. It's definitely busier in the winter or in the summer, which is a good thing. Just there's more people out and about. So they're doing that from 12 to 1. 1 o'clock is when the living room opens. So the living room is a new program that we're offering this year through a partnership with Northwestern Hospital. And it's meant to be kind of just that, a comfortable place for people to come, be out of the weather, engage in activities, have community and conversation, things like that. So that is open from 1 to 4. And runs from October to April. So it's meant to kind of cover the whole winter season. And our goal is really that somebody can find a space within this building to be Tuesday through Friday during the day. So we never ask people to leave drop-in. A lot of people just kind of come in the morning and are hanging out. Then they can come to lunch and hang out, and then they can come to living room. So they kind of move throughout this first level of the floor. And the living room we've had different presenters come, we've done different crafts during living room. They watch movies, which is a big hit. So it's kind of, we ask them for a lot of feedback on what they want, what they like, and then we try to figure out how to implement it. So it's been more utilized than I anticipated. That cold span we had a few weeks ago, we were pretty close to 60 people there every day. So yeah, that was higher than I thought it would be. There's also, a fourth church member, actually, he was closing a warehouse and he had these foam mats that he used for shipping. And he was like, I'll donate them, otherwise I'm gonna throw them away. They could be sleeping mats. And I was like, I don't know how that's gonna land. It landed. So a lot of people come and they just sleep too, which has been in our feedback. A lot of people really appreciate the opportunity to sleep in a safe space where they're not going to be bothered. They can plug their phone in. So we've purchased pillows and we use these mats and we kind of roll them in and out. And I would say every day there's about 20 people that are there just taking a nap. So some of the feedback has also been, I just feel like I'm getting to settle as soon as you close. So if you can imagine, it's there's a lot of people and there are a lot of things happening, and by the time you fall asleep or your body starts to relax, we're closing. So that's something I'm definitely thinking a lot about, but sleeping has been a very popular service in the living room in the afternoon. And then in the afternoon, we're also working with people for housing and employment case management services. So those are, housing is definitely our number one requested service. And I think it's probably our hardest service to deliver. We have 2 routes we kind of take with housing. One of them is a very small housing voucher program. So we have 2 participants every year that we offer a housing voucher to and a very intensive case management process to, where we do home visits with them, they come here, we supplement a portion of their rent, and the goal is to get them to a permanent house, a permanent and affordable housing within a year. So We're in our third year of operating that program, and I would say this past year has been our most successful. There's been a lot of learning curves with implementing that, and it's just challenging for a lot of reasons, but important, and definitely like to see the outcome. Both participants from 2024 are now housed in permanent and affordable housing, so that's really exciting. Although a small number, it's still two. So that's our housing voucher program. The other way we can support people with housing is really helping them apply, getting help. Sometimes there's application fees or things like that that prevent somebody from being able to really seek out housing. So we offer support around all of those types of logistics that come with trying to find affordable housing in the city of Chicago. As well as employment, that's a little easier. We do a lot of like resume building, cover letter building, and then helping people to kind of like keep track of where they're applying and then follow up afterwards. So that's kind of what our Tuesday through Friday looks like. And Mondays we get 3 deliveries for the food pantry per month. There's usually about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of food that come on those days. So it's a delivery day, it's a meeting day, and all the logistics that go into prepping for the week. So that's a little bit about the day in the life of the Social Service Center. I don't know where I'm at with time, or if we should pause. No? Okay, pause, or keep going.
No, well, if you have more to say.
There's, I think, let me look through. I only got to my first page, but so we have 6 volunteers that support these efforts every day. So there's volunteers work in our food pantry, in our clothing shop. We have a volunteer that goes on outreach with us, which is kind of a walk around the neighborhood. And then we have volunteers that help us unload the food deliveries on Mondays. So those are kind of the ways to get involved. Well, and processing donations. Silly me to forget, one of our best processors is here. So that's really like, every donation that comes in the door for us, we have to run through the dryer and then size and sort. So it takes us about through April to catch up from the December donations, and then it's pretty bare throughout the rest of the year. So we're in catch-up mode right now, and there's a lot of laundry happening in our space. So those are some volunteer opportunities. We have about 150 unique volunteers that work with the Social Service Center throughout the year in all of those various capacities. And then we also do like corporate volunteer events. So we have about 230 individuals that'll come out with their organizations and volunteer with us throughout the year. So that's something we've done a little more of in the past few years, but it's been a good way for like businesses and connections to happen within the community and kind of just learn it. They're like, I have always seen this building, but I never saw what was happening. So I think it's a little more work on our end, but it's a good way to kind of let people know what's happening in this building and all the goodness that goes on. I'll probably go ahead and end and save the rest for questions and answers, but I wanted to share some of the quotes that came back from our living room surveys, just because I think it gives participant voice to like what their experience is. So I picked 4 that I was going to share with you guys tonight. The first one is, I really like the instructor, Sherry, because she has a nice smile, she gives us snacks, and she plans activities. I continue to come back for the refreshments, movies, and the talks that we have. She seems really nice and interested in helping people. The movies are also great. Sometimes I dislike the living room because it always has to end so soon just when I'm starting to chill. I come to the living room to socialize, rest, and to think. I started coming to the living room because it's a way for me to stay in touch socially. My favorite part is that everyone is so caring and that we all take a personal interest in each other's lives. Other people told me about the living room, and I'm trying this year to do new things in my life. I plan to keep visiting every chance I get. The space has provided me a lot of hope and awareness. So I thought those were particularly interesting. Yeah, thank you. I will.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll pass to Mike.
Yeah, stand by for questions. I've
Yeah,
got a few.
yeah.
But we're going to hold questions until the end. So let's let Mike Usack, do you want to come up? Oh, yes, we do want you to speak. Come on down.
I want to thank Cornerstones, Nancy Thompson, and Pastor Nanette for inviting Teresa and I to speak this evening. It's a wonderful evening, and it's great to see you all here today. Thanks for listening and hopefully participating in our ministry. This evening, I'll give you a brief history of the Meals Ministry, our programming, the leadership of the ministry, our volunteer activities, how we are funded, and how to participate. The Meals Ministry is one of our it's one of our most active volunteer ministries at Fourth Church. Our history goes back to when the late pastor John Buchanan and his family used to live here in the Manse. Those that came knocking at the Manse door looking for a meal were handed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a bottle of water. It was a simple act that defined what Fourth Church represented: kindness and hope. We have progressed significantly since then, and currently our mission of the Meals Ministry is to provide nutritious meals and welcoming hospitalities for neighbors who are hungry, and nurturing a sense of community among our guests, volunteers, and partner organizations as we live out Fourth Church's mission to be a light in the city. In 2014, the Meals Ministry was formed as a spin-off from Chicago Lights. It was thought as a way for the congregation to give back to the community and free up Chicago Lights staff to more fully concentrate on case management. As a Fourth Presbyterian Church ministry, we are part of the World Mission and Social Justice, and we receive support from the church in various ways, but we count on volunteer participation to achieve our mission. So on everybody's table, you have some handouts. So I'm going to refer to these handouts as I speak. So the first one looks like this. And on this page, you'll see that it has 4 components to the Meals Ministry. Bag lunch is our oldest, followed by Sunday night supper. Monday night supper is the next oldest, and community partners started in 2020. In 2023, we started a free clinic here so that Sunday dinner guests can obtain testing, treatment, and referrals bi-monthly. On the flip side of this page, you'll see what you won't see on this flip side of this page is our collaboration with the Social Service Center. They provide social workers Tuesday through Thursday at bag lunch, as Teresa had mentioned earlier. Monday night supper is part of a group of agencies at Catholic Charities that make it a reliable source of hot meals 5 days a week. As part of this effort, we share information and communication and resources among our partners. It is difficult to get volunteers to cook on a Monday morning, so we have a long relationship with a minority-owned caterer who provides meals at a discount as his contribution. This is the single largest cost of the Meals Ministry programming. We'll get back to this later. The thought behind our community partners is that we needed to reach out and expand our scope beyond the greater near north area and to support agencies active in other parts of the city. So there's a description of, on that page, of the different partner organizations that we work with. Besides the SSC, Sarah's Circle, the Night Ministry Health Outreach Bus, which circulates around the city, the Second Presbyterian Church, because we are a Presbyterian church here, and we want to support other Presbyterians. They also have had a feeding program at Second Pres for a number of years, but it's a much smaller congregation, and a lot of their volunteers are just not up to being there all the time. It's difficult for them to get volunteers. So we're helping them out. We're providing them with sandwiches and snacks for their programs. And then there's Breakthrough Ministries in Garfield Park. It's a very, very tough neighborhood in the city of Chicago. It has about 40% unemployment and has for the last 20 years. And then we work with Lincoln Park Community Services, which used to be Lincoln Park Community Shelter. Used to have one small shelter as part of the Presbyterian Church on Fullerton Avenue, but they have since built a multi-million-dollar facility in Old Town, and so they do a lot of the things that we do around here, but for the people in that area. And we support them by bringing them a meal every month. It's difficult to get volunteers to cook on a Monday morning, so we have a relationship with a minority-owned caterer who provides meals for our Monday night supper at a discount, and that's his contribution to our ministry. I think I've mentioned that already. Each of these programs have volunteer supervisors who organize the supplies and volunteers needed to operate the programs. The supervisors communicate with the manager, myself, who oversees the recruitment of volunteers and inventory management. The manager also communicates with church leaders, the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and vendors. The manager also pays the bills, reports to stakeholders, and creates the budget. The manager reports to the volunteer-led steering team. We are very organized. Volunteer activities are listed on VOMO, which is a volunteer management website, which also lists all the volunteer opportunities for the entire church. That includes helping out with tutoring at Chicago Lights, helping out with being an usher, various other things that the church requires, as well as meals ministry. Some opportunities are guest-facing, so that means you're interacting with the guests directly, and some are behind the scenes. And that's important because we need to be prepared to help our guests. Most of our volunteers are needed during the week, with Sunday supper being the exception. There are usually openings for roles each week, but dedicated volunteers have to do double duty sometimes to meet our needs. So this is one important way that you can help us take care of our guests. The web page for each of the 9 volunteer options, which you can see on this page with all our beautiful volunteers on it, contains the days and the web page contains the days and times the volunteers are needed and any helpful information, like bring a hat or wear the dreaded lead lunch lady bonnet, okay? The website also sends out reminders so you don't forget. As I mentioned earlier, the Meals Ministry is part of World Mission Social Justice and not part of Chicago Lights anymore, so our need for donations is separate from their needs. As a member of the Greater Chicago Food Depository, we receive food for free, but it only applies to part of our ministry. Much of our bag lunch and all of our Monday night supper programs are supported by financial donations directly to the Meals Ministry. You will see a QR code that will take you directly to the donor page. So right here, and there's QR codes. A meal at Monday night supper costs roughly $1,000, and sponsorships are available. You will also see QR codes for donating in kind. So that's basically shopping for us already. And these are for the most often used foods that we distribute. The items are shipped directly to us, and it's quick and easy to do. I could go on talking about the Meals Ministry and our wonderful volunteers all night. I don't think that that's a good idea. I think your patience might be already at its end. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about our mission, history, programming, and most importantly, how you can help. thank you for allowing me to be here and talk about my passion. I'm going to wait for Pam to tell me what to do.
You wait here, and Teresa, why don't you come up, and people must have questions. Thank you. My first question is, Teresa, Mike described the VOMO app, which has 9 different opportunities within the meals ministry. Is there something similar for social services? And how many volunteers, I think you mentioned, but say it again, how many volunteers you have?
Yeah, so we are also on VOMO. So we use the same system Mike does for all of our opportunities except for donation processing. And that's really because we'll take a donation processor at any time of the day, any day of the week. Whereas the other ones are like a little more strict with the day and the time. So we ideally have 6 volunteers supporting our operations in the morning during the day.
Full-time volunteers?
So that's from 9:30 to, we say 12 on VOMO, but we really try to get people out the door by 11:30 because that's when we need to move over here anyways for lunch. So it's 9:30 to 11:30 Tuesday through Friday with the occasional glitch of a 12 o'clock on busy days. Tuesdays are historically our busiest day of the week. Fridays are slower normally. And yeah.
Thank you. Other questions?
So, in this case of both of you, what do you find to be the best way to get volunteers and then retain volunteers?
Wow, that's a challenging question. Do you want to go first? Do you have an idea?
Ours is twofold. There's been times, so like in 2023, when we were working with a lot of asylum seekers, we had a really high need for translators, and so we did a lot of like asks, constant asks in that scenario. To be honest, people really like we have a really consistent group of volunteers. They have their own little volunteer community, and it seems to be a word of mouth thing more or less. Our volunteer operations are very different from meals, though. So, we only have about 6 or 7 a day. And so people really like it. And, participants love the interaction. Most of the time, people just love it's a one-to-one model. So when someone comes into the food pantry, they get introduced to the volunteer, and the volunteer kind of walks them through the whole experience. So some people are going to be cut and dry. They're here for groceries. And some people, you're going to get their whole life story in 10 minutes. So it's a twofold, I think participants glean something from that interaction, and volunteers really glean something as well, in terms of learning a little bit about someone else's experience in the community, and just connecting people to resources. So, yeah.
Thanks, Teresa. Our volunteer needs are different than Teresa's volunteer needs. We have about 65 volunteer opportunities every week, many of which, as I mentioned earlier, are sometimes filled by volunteers on a Tuesday who've also volunteered on a Sunday or a Monday. So we are always looking to expand our pool. Sometimes we'll get high school students who need to get service hours in. Occasionally we'll be approached by a group either inside Fourth Church, such as young adults who want to do things as a group activity, and other times we'll be approached by volunteers from an outside group, say a school, that want to do something for us. So a lot of times it's a very fluid situation. We are always looking for volunteers, because out of 300 plus volunteers that we have enlisted in VOMO for the Meals Ministry, only about half of them come more than twice. So yeah, we have like I said earlier, we have a very dedicated group of people, many of which are here for helping people, but also for social reasons. So we have behind the scenes activities like making sandwiches, which is one of our most popular things. And we'll have A group of 8 volunteers and a supervisor make up to 500 sandwiches every week. We have volunteers who will come and just organize things to be brought up and brought back down from bag lunch. We have volunteers who show up at Catholic Charities on a Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, who stay until 6 and hand out meals, talk with our guests, clean up afterwards. And we're so grateful for all of that, as I'm sure Teresa is as well. But this is a way for people who are members of Fourth Church and the community around Fourth Church to give back to that community.
Could you just mention the Shirley Ryan people?
Oh, thank you. All right, so Shirley Ryan Ability Labs is over by the Northwestern campus. And for the past, I think it's close to 3 years now, they've been helping us with one of our behind-the-scenes activities called Bulk Breakdown. And it's this group from Shirley Ryan that is people that are affected with aphasia, which is how you recover from a stroke. So they might have cognitive difficulties, they might have communication difficulties, they might be unable to use a limb or talk out of the side of the face, but they are willing to come here every time and help out and be so cheerful about it as well. And these are people that are going through very difficult parts of their life, and they want to give back to us, and we're so grateful for them.
Yes, I have a question. You also have volunteers from Northwestern. Don't you have medical students or residents that come and will examine patients to see if they have any medical needs?
Yes. So just like Teresa mentioned, they've got a relationship with Heartland Association who have come in every other Tuesday to come and diagnose people and to treat them. And we have a relationship with the Near North Clinic, which is a part of the Northwestern group. And they have taken over our medical ministry, which used to be run by volunteers, but now it's run by professionals at the Near North Clinic. So they are now actually in the Near North Clinic system, enrolled, and all their records are kept there so that they can go to any of the 7 different Near North clinics around the city and still receive wonderful care and be up, and all the records are there for the doctors to be able to examine. So thank you, Anita.
This question's for Teresa. As Mike showed the QR codes for some of your things that you regularly need, do you still have I know at one point you had a wish list out on Amazon. Is that always there?
Thank you. That's okay. Yeah, we have an Amazon wish list as well, which lists usually clothing items that we're just in high demand of that we don't get as much in donations, which is men's pants and shoes. So that's usually our highest needs. Thank you. And we do have Social Service Center Amazon gift list. I can send the link out or share it if anybody's interested. It's also on our website, too.
It's also usually in the church bulletin.
It's usually there too, yeah. We like to put it out there. But yeah, that has all the items that we purchase out of budget or that we just can't keep stocked enough with what the need is. So, yeah.
This is particularly a question for Teresa. I taught confirmation for several years. Could you talk about the homeless immersion?
Yeah, sure. The homeless immersion is actually happening tomorrow. What they do is they come out, or the confirmation students come out and do outreach, which is when they take kind of supplies out to people in the community, sandwiches from the meals ministry team, and again, just invite people, tell them about what we're doing, tell them what's offered here, and invite people to come in. And then we usually do some sort of like a stimulation that just helps the youth to think about what someone's experience is when they're walking through homelessness. There's a game, and they each get different sort of cards that allow them different privileges throughout their lifespan, and then some of them lose them, so it'll be like losing a relative or having to arrange childcare, just things that come up. And so it sparks a lot of conversation about what people's experience are and what could lead to someone being unhoused. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
This question's for Mike. So I'd like to participate in preparing a meal, but when I fill up a car, you have to stand for hours, and I can't do that. Is there any chance that you could have some stools and chairs down in the kitchen so people could take breaks and sit for like 10 minutes and then get up again for an hour and do more work? Because that would, I think, increase the number of people who could physically participate in cooking meals. Especially, I would show up on a Monday morning if you had a place for me to sit and take a break every hour.
Well, thanks for your question. All right, so we prepare a hot meal every Sunday for our Sunday night supper guests here. So we cook for between 150 to 200 people every Sunday. At the beginning of the month, it's lower than at the end of the month when their government checks kind of run out. So we have a greater demand at the end of the month. We also have one of our partners 9 months of the year brings in a meal that they've been doing for the last 15 years, the North Shore Congregation Israel. So really we have only 3 or 4 volunteer opportunities, depending on how many Sundays there are in a month, to cook. And then the cooking takes place in the Delotus kitchen, which is part or adjacent to the Borwell dining room. So it is not safe for us to bring chairs into a working kitchen. It's just not, it's a safety thing. And while I love making sure that our guests are well fed, safety is my number 1 priority for many, many different reasons. But if any point in time that you're being fatigued, you aren't very helpful in the kitchen. So you could always go into the Borwell dining room and have a seat for a few minutes and let the supervisor know that I need to take a break. There are always seats available in there, even when we have the medical ministry set up. In fact, it's a nice place for some of our guests just to come and relax. So there is an option for you if you'd like to come and cook on Sundays. It is a 3-hour shift usually because we are cooking a main course, a side and 2 side dishes, and a dessert. Many times all of that's from scratch. So for example, this Sunday we'll be serving cheese tortellini with meatballs, and we'll have some pizza that is being donated from one of the local pizzerias because Sunday is National Pizza Day. Who knew that? And then we're also making Rice Krispie treats for dessert. So there's some activities going on. That's an easy day, okay? Sometimes it is more difficult, especially if it's a meal designed to serve 200 people. But whenever you have a question about what you can and can't do, just contact me and I'll be able to work with you. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So what was the impetus, and somebody else may know this even more than you might, what was the impetus to separate the meals ministry from Chicago Lights originally?
As I mentioned earlier, it was a way for them to focus more fully on case management and not have people that are trained social workers, some of them with masters in social work, handing out food. And also, because that was a Sunday supper thing, to get staff to come in on a Sunday means that they had to cut back on hours during the week.
I have a question for each of you. Mike, I know you have these statistics and I assume you know them. How many meals or how many guests do we serve in a given period of time? Pick it a week, a month, a year. Same question for you.
So this is one of the debates that we have is, do we want to try and project to you how important we are through numbers or our impact to the community? So we're hoping that you'll give us the grace to understand both, okay? So we will serve each month at bag lunch about 1,400, no, excuse me. Mary, help me out, please.
More like 450 or 500.
450 guests a week, okay? Monday night supper is usually about 150 guests at Catholic Charities. Sunday supper, as I mentioned, could be between 150 and 200 meals. And then community partners, we take out 500 sandwiches every month to our partners, as well as bring a hot meal to the men's shelter and the women's shelter at Breakthrough Ministries, and about 40 meals to Lincoln Park Community Shelter. All hot meals. Usually that's leftovers that we have. We don't ask people to come in and recreate the meal. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of an interesting question for me. Prior to 2023, we've been pretty consistent with about 1,300 unique individuals participating in all of our programs year to year. 2023, when the asylum seekers were coming to Chicago, that went from 1,300 to a little over 2,300 for us, and that was very much the busiest year we've ever had as a social service center. 2024, we came in at 1,949. So it was slightly lower, but not back to pre-2023 numbers. So that's curious to me and something I'm still kind of thinking through. But that's how many people, unique individuals, interacted with the Social Service Center last year. A few others, we had 541 unique individuals participate in our case management services in some capacity. And there were 1,245 new people who registered. So that's pretty interesting as well. Of that 1,900-ish, 1,200 were new. So yeah, it's a shifting scene a little bit in the last few years.
Cynthia, is it the same people year to year? Is it the same people year to year, or is this a population that changes over time?
Historically, I think it's been a very consistent population, but I think it has shifted a little bit in the last 2 years, both for our social service center and the meals program. I think we're seeing on both ends an increase in the amount of people utilizing programs and different people that we are not as familiar with, too.
The whole COVID thing changed the dynamics for both of our programs, as well as then the migrant influx, and now the ending of the migrant influx, but also addition of other resources available in the community. So the reopening of the Lawson House Y MCA, which was closed for a number of years and now is able to house 400 people. So a lot of those people are migrating over here, as well as we're getting some cooperation from Northwestern Hospital. So they are giving us money to take care of the guests that they're referring to us. So it is all interwoven.
Yes.
I'll ask a question since I have a microphone, nobody needed. If somebody wants to get involved, is there a process for getting involved with your group? If we want to talk to somebody about where we actually fit, do you have a process laid out?
I think you're talking about volunteers, and
yes,
our volunteers show up ready to work and with a smile on your face and a smile in your heart, and you're all set. We will teach you everything you need to know. We have 14-year-olds who come and volunteer here, so it's really not that difficult. Some things at the upper levels, when we get to steering team members, so the steering team has 3 subgroups: strategy and communications and long-term planning. And those are all based on longtime volunteers who have been involved with the program, understand the ins and outs. But anybody who would like to come and show up, even if you want to just give it a try, we'll welcome you with open arms.
But Diane, if I could be really specific, go on the church's website, click down under volunteers, and you'll come to the VOMO website, which has on it, when you get down to meals ministry, for example, it has all of the pictures that you see on that handout, and you click on the one you might like to do, and there is a description of when you show up, how long you're expected to stay, and what the requirements are. Some of you have to be 14 years old at least. Some you have to stand up, but that's specifically how you do it, and it's the same, I'm sure, for social services. Lee.
I'm a fairly new volunteer with the Meals Ministry. I've probably done it 6 months now. And Allison and Pam and Mary are the ones that they're the volunteers that head up a lot of. Mary helps organizing with assembly, and Allison does distribution, which means those of us that stand here literally serve meals, and Pam helps, she does everything, but she also does sandwich making. And all three of them are absolutely terrific in terms of getting you to feel comfortable, letting you know what you need to do, it doesn't take very long for you to get into it. And for instance, with assembly, there's a table here, and it's very organized. We have sandwiches and fruit and dessert and eggs, and people stand there. And you get to know some of our guests because they come, many of them come every day. And with the assembly, I'm always messing up the sandwich count, but usually, I try and get things together, bring them from the downstairs kitchen up. And as I said, these women are absolutely terrific in terms of, and Mike is here, and we have Phil who also helps, and they all help. And I just want to share that because I am fairly new, but it doesn't take you long to feel like you've been doing it or that you can do it. And the dedication and the support that you get in doing it is phenomenal. It's extremely rewarding.
Thank you, Ann, for
for
having that.
Dan? This is a strategy question, and Mike, you kind of alluded to this before. The homeless population is always changing and morphing, and we're all growing. And the tent communities are growing a lot, and they are not within walking distance of the church, but they certainly are, a mile or two away, some of them. And what are we doing, or what have we done, or what have we thought about, or I'd just love to hear what your thoughts are on if we're helping with that community, or if we could.
So the tent community is different to work with than the community that currently comes here. Now, we do have some people who come from the west side and they take the green line. We have one of our guests, Calvin. He rides his bike 6 miles every day to be here or at Catholic Charities because this is his community, and it's not on the west side, but it just happens to be where he lives. Tent community people, and Teresa, if you've got more insight into this, please, tend to stay in one spot. They have everything that they have with them in their entire life in that tent or in their shopping cart or whatever, and to leave that even for a moment sometimes causes them great personal distress. So it's difficult for somebody to bring all their belongings with them, but it does happen. Some do, and we welcome that, and I don't want to say we encourage that because we don't discourage that.
We definitely have participants that are in various tent communities throughout the city, and I think to what Mike said, it shocks me every time how far people travel to come here. What I suspect is going on is that people, safety is a big issue for a lot of our participants. There are some affordable housing opportunities, but there's a fine line. A lot of our participants will say, I will not live there any longer, just due to safety. So I think being downtown is a big factor for people. I think they feel there's a safety component to being able to kind of come here. You know, but I would second what Mike said. I think it's a different sort of community, and the needs in terms of like mental health and substance abuse are always a little bit more chronic as well. So
There's some.
they're welcome. Everybody is welcome.
There's some safety in numbers, though. So
Sure, yeah.
They do have a community. They do look out for each other for the most part. Sometimes things disappear, but for the most part, I've had people come up to me and say, "I haven't seen so and so in a while. Have you guys?" Okay, and then we'll put the word out, and we'll find out.
Or we've had people too where one person will come and check everybody's mail for the day and like set up a system kind of like that. So it's a community, definitely.
I just have to say, those are great answers, because it's not, we can do everything. There are things that we're not tackling at this moment in time, and I really appreciate that answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I will close it out at that. Thank you guys so much. I think I learned a
Thank
lot.
you.